This video is to show you where all the things are that you need to use if you're teaching phonics. It's hopefully useful for those of you who've not taught phonics before in this school, or those who just want a bit of a refresher. So at the moment, everything you need is on the server. Hopefully at some point it'll be in the cloud. So in Staff Share, this year's teaching folder, 2020-21, this folder, phonics curriculum and resources. And there's a range of things in here. Some of them are things that I've put in, some of them are things that other people have put in, some of them are things that might help you or that other people have made, and some of them are things that are the things that you really need. And I'm going to go through the things you really need today. If you're not sure about how to say your pure sounds, if you want to practice, if you want to check, there's a video here that you can watch and you can have a go with. The part I'd really like to show you right now is this whole school programme. So I want to alert you to the fact it's not called 2016 because we were only doing it in 2016. It's called 2016 because we rewrote it in 2016. It was new in 2016. So there's two key files that you need to be aware of. This one in capital letters, 2016 phonics curriculum, is our school curriculum. It's the only curriculum we're following. It is similar to letters and sounds. There are some things that are the same as letters and sounds, and there are some things that are different. Where resources from other programs match this program, of course you can use resources from other programs. Where resources don't match, it's important that you follow this program and not any other program. So I'm going to double click it and then show you. So as I said before, it's got the 2016 date on it. That's when it was revised. So this is the phonics program that takes us through from nursery all the way through to children can read using phonics, and that isn't what they're doing as part of their reading anymore. The F1 page is exactly phase 1 letters and sounds. There is no difference from phase 1 letters and sounds. So this is more of a summary of what phase 1 letters and sounds is, rather than any alteration to that. So if you're teaching phase 1 phonics, the letters and sounds program is the program to follow. It has these 7 aspects and it progresses in that order, with these ones being the kinds of things that 2- and 3-year-olds should be able to do. Moving through to these ones are the ones that they need to do before they start school. And it may be that some children are not secure in this after they've started school. So if you've got children who started school who are not secure in phase 1, they should still be taught phase 2, but they might need phase 1 sessions in addition. So then coming through, each phase or sub-phase is broken down. Over on, well, in the top it will say which year group is the age-related year group for that. Of course, you might be teaching it in a different year group. It will break down what the key skills are that the children are learning within that phase and give you a rough guide to how long that should take to teach if the children are working age related. So if you've got an F2 group that are working on phase 2, they're working where they should be, it should take you roughly 10 weeks to teach this plus 2 weeks of revision, as it says there. If you have got children who are working above, obviously we don't for this, we're not starting this in nursery. If you have got children who are working above a different stage, they might need to go a bit slower, they might be able to go faster, but this is your rough guide as to how long that should take. If you've got children who are working below where they should be, it's important that we aim to move faster than this progression, otherwise we won't narrow the gap. If we're always going slower than this progression, the gap will get wider. So these are your letter groups here. So you've got the phoneme, grapheme correspondences in this column that you need to teach. So they're grouped by letter group. So you should teach that top row first because you can make words out of that top row and there's resources that go alongside it. You should teach this row as your next group and they can be combined with the top row. And you should teach this group last and they can be combined with the previous ones. Your next column has got alternative spellings for known phonemes. So if you see anything that's got these 2 dashes either side of a letter, that is to represent a phoneme. So that is the sound k, which can be written with a C or a K. So this isn't a k, this is a C. This is a k. You don't need to say to children this is an alternative spelling for a known phoneme, but you do need to make it clear to them that there are 2 different ways of writing the sound k and that they now know 2 of them. There'll be more of those as they go along, and some of those will be taught explicitly as this is what we're learning. Some of them are just, it needs bringing to the children's attention. Your next column, again, more of them come up as you go along, but your next column is alternative pronunciations that you need to explicitly teach them. So that would be, you would make sure that is either a lesson or it's a clear teaching point. So this letter I, they need to know in almost all cases at this level of reading is going to be an I, like in pin, but sometimes it won't be. Sometimes it will be an I. So if I was writing the word in at the beginning of a sentence, I would write it with a capital I, but it still makes the sound I. So they need to know this letter I makes an I in most words, but sometimes it makes an I, and the only word they need to know that in to start with is the word I, meaning me. Your next column is the word structures that you need to teach. They build up throughout the phases. So to start with, children are learning vowel consonant word structures, consonant vowel consonants, and vowel consonant consonants, with some examples there. That is what children should be expected to be able to read and spell. Throughout this, just to be clear, so if we look maybe at the next one, they are phoneme consonants, not letter consonants. So for instance, chimp has got a C and an H, which are both consonants, but they make the single consonant phoneme ch. So that is ch, I, p. It's got 4 sounds in it. So the 4 letters represent 4 sounds, which might be represented by any number of letters from 4 up. So that's what you're expecting the children to be able to read and spell, those structures, but you might want to demonstrate some slightly more complex structures to get them ready for it, because they're going to be expected to do that later on. Also, when you're working orally with children, so things like if I said, can you put your hands on your hips? I'm not necessarily expecting children to write that, but I am expecting them to be able to hear it. Equally, I can use phonemes that they've not covered, so we could play a game, we could play an I Spy game. I spy the sheep. It doesn't matter that at this stage they haven't learned an E, they can still hear that as a CVC structure. Sh, E, p is a CVC structure. It's no harder to blend than any of the other CVC words. So you can be exposing children to things that are going to come later without necessarily expecting it in their reading and their writing. What you expect in their reading and their writing are these made out of these. And then over here, and we've got another document I'll show you in a bit, we have got the high frequency words that are expected alongside that stage. And it's important that children can read high frequency words after they've learnt them. They can read them on sight and they are not sounding them out and blending them. So high frequency words are split into 2 categories. You've got common exception words. Also on our houses, these are on the roofs. Common exception words are words that can't be read using phonics at the stage of phonic development that the children are at. So at this stage, they're not doing a C, V, C, C word structure. So that counts as a common exception word. It's not in what we're expecting them to be able to do. However, you can show them, look, it's went. You're not going to show them that with house, because there's too much in there that they don't know. It's too big a stretch. But what you might say to them is, look, you can see it's got a at the beginning. You can hear in house, and they might hear this, and you can point it out. These words over here, the decodable words, are the words that are on the walls in our houses. These words are really high frequency words in English. They're words that when children see them in their book, in order to get fluency, they don't need to be stopping to read these words and trying to blend them. They need to have encountered these words so many times that they read them automatically. They're not learning them as sight words. They're blending them enough times that they've learnt it and they don't need to do that anymore. So you need to make sure these are included as flashcards, but also as part of your application section of your phonics lesson. Then at the bottom of each phase, there's a summary of what the children should be able to do at the end of that phase. You're not assessing from this, you're assessing from the assessment sheets, which I will go through, but that shows you what they need to do and it tells you which assessment sheet they need to do. Going through, we've got exactly the same thing for all of the other phases. Obviously, you see there's more coming in here. We've also got letter names come up here in phase 3. It's really important that children know the difference between a letter and a phoneme. So the letter S makes the sound or the phoneme S, but when I look at the sh there, it isn't made of a S and a H, because those are sounds and those sounds are not in sh. So they need to know S and H make the sound sh. So of course they'll say things like, is it a, is it a, and of course you can say yes, but you need to make sure that you are teaching it's S and it's H. So you teach letter names there as well. And then here you've got more where they already know L, but they knew it like that. Now they need to learn it like this, and they need to know why they're different. Here you've got the T and the H, makes two different sounds. It makes th, like thin and thumb, and it makes th, like that and this and with, and they are different sounds. You might see it described as voiced and unvoiced, but if you teach the children it as two different sounds, because some of them won't see any resemblance between a th and a th, they are completely different sounds as far as children are concerned. You've got your word structures over here like before, and you've got your words over there. This goes all the way through with exactly the same pattern all the way through. You'll see in phase 4, there's no new phoneme grapheme correspondences. It's all about these word structures, but you might need to teach them how to do that. They can't necessarily do that just because there's nothing new doesn't mean there's no new learning. There's no new phoneme grapheme correspondences. There is new learning. If you see a slash in between, it's a syllable break. So things like a CVC, CVC could be sunset. So the first syllable sun, the second syllable set. Remembering to include long vowels that they've learned in phase 3 in there as well. So this document goes all the way through. Being mindful that you're teaching from this document. So in phase 5.1, commonly called the long vowel family phase, you've got all these long vowel families, you've got all the different spelling patterns you need to teach. That's not all the different spelling patterns there are for A. These spelling patterns have been chosen because they are the ones that are more likely to come up in the Year 1 phonics screening check. The ones that are less likely to come up in the Year 1 phonics screening check are taught later on in phase 6. So in phase 5, make sure you are teaching these. Also just be mindful they're starred, but the oo sound is sometimes a u sound. So if take this one for instance, the split digraph, in the word rude, R-U-D-E, rude, it's an oo, rude, whereas the same spelling pattern is a u in the word cube. So C-U-B-E, cube, it's got a U sound in it. So you need to teach the children that there are two different sounds for those spelling patterns, sometimes oo, sometimes u, and that they might need to try both to work out what the word is. Those have come up in the Year 1 phonics screening check before. Again, more new word structures over here, and your words. Moving through, phase 5.2 is much more about alternative spellings here, so alternative spellings of the ch sound. And over here, alternative pronunciations of known letters. So they know C and they know it makes a K, but now they're going to learn it makes a S sometimes. They know G and they know it makes a G, but now they're going to learn it makes a J, and so on. And suffixes there as well. And it goes through. All the way through phase 6. And then Year 3 doesn't have any new phonic learning. There is no new age-related phonic learning in Year 3. However, because we've got it in other places, I've included what the Year 3 ethics rules are that you need to be aware of, and a few technical things that don't come up in the standard phonics programme that you might want to cover. Make sure they know. Most children who can read at this stage have picked up these anyway. And then these are your Year 3-4 spellings. Most children in Year 3 who are working on phonics are still working on earlier aspects of phonics. So that's that document. I'm going to remind you of the cover. It looked like that. It is the phonics programme. It's non-negotiable. That is the phonics programme. I'm going to show you another document.